I'd like to call the meeting to order on Monday, March the 10th. If the clerk would please read the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Here.
Councilmember Moeller. Councilmember Ruiz. Mayor Rapp.
Here. You have the minutes before you from the regular meeting of February the 24th. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashford. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Is there any additions or deletions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand as submitted. We have two presentations tonight. If the clerk would please read the first one.
Robert Clegg, City Engineer, Director of Public Works, will give a presentation on street and utility improvements post-CSO program.
Mayor Rep and council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. The CSO control program, which the city began some 14 years ago or more, is drawing to a close. City Council has authorized the last of the projects that we can plan earlier this year, and that project will be completed probably about mid-construction season 2015. So what happens next, and does that mean that's it, we're done, we don't have to worry any more about infrastructure? It's not quite the case. The City of Port Huron has 234 miles of sewer that it maintains, 169 miles of water main, 135 miles of streets, and 13 sanitary pump stations. That used to be 14, but we were able to eliminate one as part of the CSO control program. And that's good news because that saves operating cost and capital cost in the future. When we began the CSO control program in 1997, the City of Port Huron, about 2,400 acres of the City of Port Huron were served by combined sewers. And that's approximately 48% of the surface area of the city. We had 19 overflow points, and this map demonstrates the areas that were served, and the red triangles show the 19 locations where combined sewage discharged into the river whenever it rained. As of the fall of 2013, we have 2 overflow points left, and the 17 of our overflow points are now green on this map, which indicates that we have not only separated the sewers, but we verified that there's no human waste coming out of those discharges. They are stormwater only. The City Council authorized the Nern area project, which is the project in the south area of the city. That will allow us to eliminate that overflow regulator in 2015. And what will be left is the area immediately adjacent to the Blue Water Bridge Plaza, the plaza itself, and the area immediately adjacent to it, where we still await the decision of the federal government and the state on what they want to do with the Blue Water Bridge Plaza. And there will be one overflow regulator left on the Black River. It will not trip frequently, but it will not be gone. It will trip sometimes. Be about 2 acres still covered. So where we are right now is we're about 94% complete. We've reduced the overflow volume, the combined sewer overflow volume entering the rivers by 97%. We reduced the area served by combined sewers by 94%, and we're down to 2 outfalls from 19. The good news is that the city councils have decided that when they implemented this mandated program, they decided, and I think it was a very wise decision, to separate sewers rather than build basins. By separating the sewers rather than building basins, it gave us an opportunity while we were complying with the law and taking care of the pollution entering our rivers, to also address infrastructure challenges we have in the city. Much of the city of Port Huron, like so many communities across the state and our nation, have water mains that are hundreds of years old, 110 years old, 80 years old, 90 years old, and very few water mains that are much younger. And that's true for our sewers. Our sewers are 100, 150 years old in many parts of our city. Some areas, maybe they're 80 years old. Those are the young ones. Then you take into account the streets. Streets are something that deteriorate on an ongoing basis. It's like fixing the roof on your house. When you roof your house, we all know that that roofing job might last 20, might last 30 years. But if you don't pay attention to it and fix it before it leaks, it's going to cost you a lot more. And I've talked to council before about our street program and our street planning. And I'm going to talk tonight about that and how it fits with our utility planning into the future. What we've accomplished so far for CSO projects from 1999 to 2013 is we've replaced 59 miles of water main. That's about 35% of our total system. We've replaced 90 miles of sewer. That's mainly new pipe that didn't exist before because it was a single pipe system. So it really wasn't replacement. The good news is we repaired whatever pipes we left behind. That was part of the project. And we ended up resurfacing reconstructing about 77 miles of pavement. But during this project, we haven't been just doing CSO area. The City Council has authorized us to do work in non-CSO areas. Primarily, we use grant funding sources and the voter-approved street millage to do these other areas. We also use some low-interest loans and grants. But we did 17 miles of water main in non-CSO areas, 9 miles of sewer, and 28 miles of paving. As a total, we've replaced 76 miles of our water main system, which is about 45% of our total system. 99 miles of sewer were installed, and we've paved about 105 miles of street. City Council's seen this particular map. This is a map that we did a presentation on the pavement needs or the street needs before the voters went to the polls to consider a renewal of our street millage. And this map shows the areas where we have streets that are in poor condition, they're shown in red, fair condition, shown in green, and light blue, which means they're good. I'd like to point out that this map is possible through the GIS system we developed as we were implementing our CSO. The CSO control program gave us a point in time with very little additional cost to develop a GIS system for the city. Our current street needs, what we did speak about this with council, we estimate there's about 26.3 miles of streets still in need of repair. Some of that will be repaired as part of the Nern Street project and other projects that are ongoing, but it is going to take care of all 26 miles. And the voter-approved millage will help with that effort. But in addition to that, we have about 50 miles of water mains that post-CSO will be over 50 years old. Some of those will be on the cusp. And why 50? Does that mean that water mains aren't any good at 50 years? No, it's the time where we have to look twice at the water main, look at its break history, look at its flow characteristics, before we do pavement repairs, to assure that when we do that pavement repair, we're not going to be out there a week after the paving's done to repair a water main break, or to have that go bad before that pavement life extends out. So as we're looking to repair streets, we also need to look at the utilities under them. We also took a closer look at the oldest of those water mains, and we've divided this up into area. This has been a report we've submitted to DEQ. Council has seen these reports previously because it puts us in a position potentially to go after low-interest loans to assist with funding for these projects. There's about $27.5 million in water main needs that we've identified. These are 80 to 110-year-old water mains in the city, and these will exist post-CSO. This does not include the Narren area work. What we then do is we take our GIS map and we overlay the street conditions with the water main age. And what we find is that it's difficult to repair a street in town. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to repair a street in town without considering or doing the water mains underneath that street. And we always televise the sewers to verify we're not going to repair a street over a bad sewer. And this map shows that overlay. The red on this map shows where we have streets in poor condition and water mains over 50 years old. The green shows streets that are in fair condition and water mains over 50 years old. And the dark blue shows streets that are in good condition but have water mains over 50 years old. What does all this cost? Let's take a look. This data comes from the fiscal year 2013 CAFR, pages 166 to 168. It does not show all Department of Public Works projects, but centers only on those projects that affected streets, water main, and sewer construction. So it would not include our transportation projects we did to rebuild 2 Basque bridges, or the bike paths and other pedestrian trails we've constructed, nor any of the building repairs and the 2 plant projects, or the many plant projects we've done at both the wastewater and the water plant. But it gives you some idea for what we've done out in the street system, in the collection system, in the distribution system, in our neighborhoods. And the city has expended through fiscal year 2013, and these are only completed projects. These would not include ongoing projects. In the CSO area, there are 31 financially completed projects for a total of $166 million. And we were expending at a rate of about $11.9 million a year during the CSO control program. When we look at non-CSO projects over the same period of time, we actually did about $45.7 million worth of projects, and we're spending at a rate of about $3.3 million per year. A total of $211.8 million were expended on streets and utilities out in our neighborhoods and in our community. That averages $15.1 million a year. Certainly a Herculean effort for a community our size. We were expending at a rate of $4 million a year to upgrade aging water mains. And that's kind of a key that I want to point out on this page. So what does the future hold? Well, if you recall, even when we're completed with the project, we're going to have older water mains. We're still going to have streets that need repair. And in many cases, the voter-approved millage, the one that received a 2-to-1, passed by 2-to-1 margin, the public obviously wants their streets repaired. When we get to that street, we're going to have to address the utilities underneath it, or it'll be dollars poorly spent. So post-CSO, ideally, what we should be expending is about $2 million a year on water mains, $1 million on sewer, and about $3.5 million a year on paving, or about $6.5 million. Now that would be in 2014 dollars. I'm kind of anchoring it at a point in time I'm familiar with because I'm talking about the future. How are we going to fund that? Well, partially we'll fund it with grants. From 1999 to 2013, the City of Port Huron received $15.2 million in federal surface transportation grants. Those do not include the grants we receive for transportation trails and for bridges, but only for roadways. And that averages about $1 million a year annually in grants. Hopefully, the federal government will continue to have that program, and hopefully will continue to compete well for those funds. The other part of the revenue will come from the voter-approved millage. The voters have approved 2 mills for 10 years, and with their support, that will generate about $1.2 million of revenue towards the road programs. The county, countywide, the voters approved a millage for road millage, and the city receives about $150,000 a year from the county millage that was approved by voters for road improvements. Earlier tonight, Ed, our finance director, presented to you a graph that shows what happens with debt retirement on sewer and water funds into the future. And even though maybe the most prudent thing would be to expend those additional dollars, we all have to be realistic about funding. So here's what I'm proposing, is that a typical budget from 2014 till 2020, instead of spending $2 million a year on water mains, we should spend somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million a year on water mains, and a little less on sewers, and then use our other revenue sources for paving. And we'll have a typical budget somewhere in the $3.7 million range, depending on grants and available projects and how we match those projects up. We would do that from 2014 to 2020 when the debt starts falling off. At that point, I would recommend that the city consider going back to the original number that I had spoken about earlier, which would be to increase our effort in water main repairs, sewer repairs, and of course our paving program would continue, hopefully. Certainly we'll still be within the window of the millage, at least initially. And hopefully we can still get funding from other sources for roads. But I'm concerned that if the city has made some very wise decisions on how we've gone forward with the CSO control program, and we've really turned the corner on the state of our infrastructure compared to many communities across the state and nation. But if we fail to plan properly and move forward with our continuing funding towards these important infrastructure issues, we'll soon fall behind again, and it'll be difficult to catch back up. This is a case where the repaired roof will save you money in the long run, as long as you repair it in a timely fashion. Hopefully that this is my explanation of kind of where I see we are and where I see we need to go, where I'm seeing we need to go into the future for infrastructure within the community, at least the sewer and street infrastructure, sewer, water main, street infrastructure.
Thank you. Does anyone on council have questions for Mr. Clegg?
Yeah, Mayor Rep.
Yes, Councilmember.
You mentioned, Bob, that we repaired a lot of the roads, and then we also, when we repaired them, did we also take the opportunity to replace them? We didn't just repair.
Well,
did we replace any?
Good question. We've done both over the from '99 to 2020. We've used a mix of fixes. However, the majority of the roads ended up having most of their utilities replaced.
Oh, okay.
And because we were replacing utilities, most of the road were taken out. So they were completely rebuilt from the bottom up.
Oh, okay.
But there have been roads we've done where we've just milled and resurfaced. We've done some other types of work like panel replacements on concrete roads in non-CSO areas.
Oh, okay. And just two others. You said you want to have less focus on the sewage this second? What
Well,
is-
it's difficult for us to estimate the sewer needs until we televise each pipe, and we have not televised every pipe in town yet.
Oh, okay.
What typically we do is, we look at our funding sources, we try to match our funding sources with the needs out there. And then, as we choose the streets that need resurfacing, need water main repair, we send out a TV camera, we televise the sewers and verify. My example is, this year, the council has approved us doing Stone Street between Washington and Lincoln. We're going to replace the water main, it's 80-some years old, but we've televised the sewers, and here's the remarkable thing. The sewers are in very good condition. However, the manholes are in very bad shape. So we're going to replace and repair those manholes as we're reconstructing the road to assure that that doesn't become a problem after the road is reconstructed.
Okay. Well, I seriously just like to commend you because I know this was a big kind of a headache for municipalities all across, the United States, especially here in the state of Michigan. And we have positioned ourselves to be really a Class A coming up with all our improvements that we, have been able to make, with grant monies and not that much money coming from us as a city of Port Huron. You were able to do all of that. So what will you tell our residents today? What is your main message in this presentation? What can we, what do you want us to really know about this whole?
I think the main message is that we appreciate their support. We very much appreciate their support and their patience as we work through making these necessary repairs to the infrastructure. And that when CSO is done, while we no longer would be under the time mandate, we aren't going to have to compress what needs to get done into a very, very specific timeline.
Right.
That doesn't mean doing nothing is the right answer. We have to find a balanced approach going into the future, or we'll end up back where we were. And I think that's the opportunity and the message I want to get across to the community, is that we've paid a price to get to where we are. And going forward, we can minimize that cost with a good planned approach, but we need to continue to make our repairs.
So we need sustainability going forward, and this doesn't mean we have to quit. There's not going to be a cost, but we have to just maintain it.
A nice, steady approach. We're at a position with a good, steady approach, we could save the public a lot of money.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Rep.
Is there anyone else on council?
Sure.
Yes.
I guess my
Councilmember Harris.
only question is, this project that started, like, say, 12, 13 years ago, some of the streets that we visited then are getting in a stage where we need to revisit them again, and what kind of percentage is that?
Typically, pavements, there isn't a fixed amount of life. You can say that street's going to last that many years and that one that. But I do have a sense for what it takes annually. I've been studying the system for the last 15 years, and we were studying the system in Lansing, and it's amazing how much they mirror one another as far as life expectancy. And in the city of Port Huron, if we do about 6.7 miles a year of paving, it doesn't have to be reconstruction. It can be some resurfacing, but about 6.7 miles of pavement preservation. That would cost about $4.5 million a year. Then we're stable, we're steady. We won't see our system get better, we won't see it get worse. That's the breaking point in the city of Port Huron. That keeps up with the age question you asked. And pavements last, you'll start seeing wear and tear on pavements in 15 to 20 years. And if you don't do something about it right in that range, typically, then you'll see them degrade more rapidly over time. I have charts I can show you on that.
I think my pet in this, even though I don't live in the north end, if you look at 10th Avenue from Garfield to Holland Avenue, it's deteriorated at a very fast rate.
Yeah, that particular project is about 11 years old now, and that was an experimental project. We used cold-in-place recycling. We're not happy with its performance. It saved us a lot of money, but we're not happy with its performance. We'll have to go back up there and do a resurfacing on that in the not-too-distant future.
Is there any other questions from anybody on council? Just holding a pencil. Thank you for your presentation. I think really basically what you want people to know, if I can paraphrase, is the fact that I think a lot of the public thinks that when you're done with the CSO project, we're all done. And I think the point you're making is that we're not all done.
That's correct, Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll move on, and now is the time for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience. Oh, I'm sorry, we have another presentation. Boy, I almost forgot you. There we go. Would you like to read the second presentation?
Sure. Nancy Windsor, Parks and Recreation Director, will give a presentation on cemetery cleanup efforts.
Sorry,
She gets real
Nancy.
testy when she's
We were this
ignored.
close.
Sorry about that.
Well, as all of you know, Lakeside Cemetery is one of those beautiful cemeteries in our area. And recently, we've received a lot of community feedback stating that there's been a lot of unsightly decorations and items that are overwhelming and kind of interfering with the whole ambiance of the cemetery. So recently, the staff has worked very hard to clean up some of the language and some of the rules to help to keep the cemetery in the pristine condition that I know we all want to keep it in. We know everyone here would agree that keeping our cemetery in a beautiful condition is the greatest tribute that we can do for our loved ones. So that's why the staff has been working hard to make these changes. What I'd like to do at this time is turn over the presentation to our cemetery supervisor, Ben Payak, to talk about some of these changes and how he's going to implement them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Rep, City Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Ben Payak. I'm the supervisor for Lakeside Cemetery. On tonight's agenda, we have drafted a proposed revision to the cemetery rules and the cemetery ordinance. The main purpose of the revisions is to address the decorations of the cemetery plots. As you know, Lakeside Cemetery is home to a national cemetery, that being Old Soldiers Lot, as well as specifically dedicated to our veterans, that being the Veterans Lot on the corner of Gratiot and Craft. We have buried over 45,000 people, as well as some important and famous families, including Edison's family, Conger, McMorrin, that's just to name a few. We have an obligation to take care of this beautiful cemetery and to keep it in pristine condition. Following concerns we have received from the public, families, local funeral home directors regarding the vast amount of unusual decorations being placed on the cemetery. We spent a better part of last year exploring the concerns. We're experiencing more negative comments about certain decorations from people interested in buying plots, some not wanting to purchase in a certain section due to the decorations. It is a very delicate issue when it comes to grieving process. One person's grieving could affect another person's grieving. Through our own research, we have also discovered that this is not a problem unique to our cemetery, but is nationwide. Others are having the same issues. Next slide, please. So here we are today. We believe the current rules are confusing, difficult because of inconsistencies. We also allowed certain decorations to be grandfathered in. Detailed records were never kept, so it's difficult to determine what has been grandfathered and what is not. Keep in mind, one of our ongoing challenges is always going to be placement of unacceptable decorations. For example, one site we discovered a display of full beer cans. We of course removed them, only to find them back the following week. This went on all summer long and is currently still going on. After meeting with interested people, various groups, and the local funeral home directors, we believe there is a better way to describe what is acceptable. We are not necessarily changing what is allowed, but rather how we describe it to help simplify the rules and help us to enforce it. Basically, our motto will be patriotic flags and flowers. Next slide, please. The next few slides will show a couple of sites with non-conforming decorations. While although they may look nice, we do not believe this is acceptable for a cemetery. Some of the other issues include the items encroach on someone else's gravesite. The area behind the headstone is owned by somebody else. This also causes maintenance problems, weed whacking and lawn mowing. Keep in mind, this is what a family and friends see when they come to the cemetery attending a burial. Or this is what they see when they come looking to purchase a lot or simply driving by. Next slide, please. These may look nice and well maintained. They are still non-conforming. Borders, rocks, mulching, solar lights, statues cause issues with maintaining the cemetery and become unsightly. While you may be wondering why they were allowed in the first place, my guess is they were either grandfathered in or put in by families because they saw other sites. Next slide, please. Basically, our motto will be patriotic flags and flowers. The picture you see is with an upright marker, and the other one is a flat marker with a patriotic flag. These flag displays will be acceptable. While flags do cause some maintenance issues, we feel they are very important and should be allowed. The proposed rules spell out that there are no other types of flags to be permitted. We have consulted with the representative from St. Clair County Allied Veterans Council, and the Allied Veterans are in agreement. Next slide, please. The next conforming decorations is flowers. Acceptable plantings are annual or perennial plants only. Can be planted in the ground directly in front of the headstone, extending no more than 12 inches. Hanging floral baskets on a shepherd hook above the headstone. No artificial flowers. And no other items can be hung from the hook or basket. Grave blankets and wreaths will continue to be allowed from November 15th through March 31st. As you can see, the picture on the screen shows a patriotic flag, the hanging basket, and planted flowers. That is a perfect site. Next slide, please. In conclusion, this will be a big undertaking, but I think we can all agree we want to make our cemetery something we can all be proud of. First, we understand everyone grieves differently and how difficult it can be when we lose a loved one. We intend to handle each grave site with dignity and try to preserve and return the items. We plan to do a full media blitz advertising campaign. We plan to move forward starting April, weather permitting. We will begin using our motto, patriotic flags and flowers only. We hope this will be simple and easy to remember and enforce. For our regular visitors to the cemetery, this will be their first chance to see the information and remove the non-conforming items. We plan to do radio ads, have information in church bulletins, make up flyers, which can be handed out to the funeral homes, and have them available at the cemetery, possibly on the sign similar to a real estate box. We'll put the information on the website. We'll also plan to meet again with the local funeral directors, provide the updated rules. If adopted tonight, and we will also provide flyers they could give to the clients so they have information as well. And of course, visitors to the cemetery during normal business hours can visit the cemetery office, and I will be available to assist them. We will start by removing all winter decorations, then remove broken and unsightly decorations. Our goal is to have the cemetery substantially cleaned up and up to conforming by early summer. Again, it's our intent to handle each gravesite with dignity and try to preserve and return the items. But we are asking and hoping that families will remove the items on their own. Next slide, please. We have not, of course, discussed all the non-conforming decorations, but hope we have given you an opportunity to see what has been taking place and the challenges we have ahead of us. Let me end with this quote from Karen Gorski, who has assisted us during our review process. She stated, "Much of Port Huron's history lays within the cemetery. I commend the city for its steps to improve the overall condition of Lakeside, not only for the community, but out of respect for those who are buried there." At this time, I'd just like to thank Sue Childs and her staff for assisting in the review of these rules. Thanks again, Mayor Rep. and Council, for hearing from me tonight, and open to questions.
Anyone on council have questions? Yes, Councilmember
The
Lewandowski.
patriotic flags, is there going to be a size limit to them?
Yes, there is. Sue, do you know this?
8 by 12.
8 by 12.
Anybody else have any questions?
I think Ben's going to do a great job.
I might
And
comment
he's
that
got a
they
tough
have,
one.
Thank you, sir.
I might comment that they have done a marvelous job with the mausoleum. Probably 8 months ago, it was a real disaster, and if you go out there now, it looks fantastic. They've also done a major upgrade of the chapel area and inside the chapel. So they have made great strides, and it's an ongoing, sometimes touchy business, and they're doing a terrific job.
Mayor Rep, I have
Yes,
one more thing.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Not really can do with this, but is there still plenty of room in Lakeside Cemetery for years to come?
Yes, there is. I do understand it'll get me to retirement, so.
I heard
that's
you
about-
say 45,000 people.
That's close to 30 years, so.
You must know how long he has to live.
Do we still have, Mayor Rep?
Yes,
Do we still
please.
have Potter's Field, or is that still up there where?
Yes, it is.
Okay, it is. Where is that located?
If you're familiar with Lakeside Cemetery, you would come in off of 10th Avenue and head straight to the back, past the water tower, past our building where we keep all our maintenance equipment, and it'd be to your left. It's up on a hill, kind of behind a fence.
Oh, okay.
So it's not something you can see very well from the cemetery.
Oh, okay. I think this is very timely. I live near the area somewhat, and you do see a lot of things that are just clearly, I walk through there, and it's kind of ridiculous. So I'm glad to see, us doing something, because even if they can't speak for themselves, then we need to do something, because we are here to help make that difference for them. And I realize that people want to, memorialize people in different ways and everything, but we still need to have some kind of cadence or some kind of respect up there in how we want to see that,
Yes.
presented to the public on behalf of the city of Port Huron. So, nice job.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I know it's a very sensitive issue, but I know you're handling it with dignity, so
Yes.
good job.
We're
Thank
ready.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the city council, please come forward, give us your name, and you have 4 minutes.
Trina Avedissian, Port Huron, 15th Street, Port Huron. And I'm just here to let you know that we are going to be doing Art on the River again, and this will be our 4th year. And the reason I'm here is because I want to thank all the people in the city that are helping us do it. Doug Lincoln, Debbie Albert, and back when Robin Berry was here, she was very helpful. And so for the last 4 years, it's been really super great working with everybody in the city. Sue really helps us out, especially when I come running in with certain things really late, and because I didn't pay attention to timing and all that kind of stuff, and so they help me a lot. And it's just really a wonderful thing how everybody helps within the city to put on this event. So I just want to publicly thank all the people in the city helping us do Art on the River this year, and for the past 3 years as well.
Thank you. What's the date this year, Trina?
June 14th and 15th.
14th and 15th?
And we have our headliner band signed, but I'm not telling.
Oh, it's a secret.
I have to wait until we can announce it, but yeah, we just signed them this week, so it's really going to be fun. I'll just let you know that it's a Michigan-based person, and she has local ties here, and she does an awesome job, so I'm really excited. I can't wait to let that one out because it's going to be great.
Not Madonna, is it?
Madonna.
Just a minute, before you leave the podium, the Art on the Park, can you just briefly tell us what can people expect?
You're going to see several different kinds of artists and crafters. Right now, one of my favorite ones is the ladies that have creepy cute dolls, and they're little zombie dolls, and they come with little caskets, and they make them by hand, and they're really cool. I mean, they're so cute.
They come with caskets?
Yeah, they're.
Is that
I just
part
thought,
of the
ew, when she called
presentation?
me-
Previous
Don't send them to the
presentation?
cemetery.
And then I've got another lady who she has chicken eggs, and she carves beautiful things in the chicken eggs. And I have a couple jewelry designers already signed up, and painters, and I think we have a potter now that's going to be coming. We also have the Traveling Michigan Vietnam Veterans Memorial coming again. So we're going to do the whole procession with the motorcycles, and all the veterans will be here, and we're going to do a ceremony again. And we have 16 slots on the main stage, and we have 19 bands who want to be on there, so we kind of have to pick and choose who's going to be on the main stage. We're starting an hour later with the music because of the memorial thing kind of overlaps, and we have the orchestra, the New Horizons Orchestra play, so we don't want to get the bands starting before they get done because it kind of takes away from what they're doing, so we're going to start the bands a little bit later, but and then Andy Baku from Wolverine Market will be there doing wine tastings in the beer tent. So we're going to have like Michigan wines, only Michigan wines coming, Mackinac Trails and things like that. So if people want to come and try Michigan wine, they can do that in the beer tent. And just a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of things going on. We're excited about all the artists and crafters that we've been talking to. There'll be a nice variety.
There'll be food too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what we're trying to do is promote our downtown restaurants. Like, the guys from the Michigan Memorial like to go to the restaurants right there. And we have like this huge amount of restaurants downtown in that area. So we don't want to put a lot of food in our food court. We have like snacks and things like that. But we want to have them promote themselves because we have Fuel and Lynch's. And I know it's not Quay Street Brew Pub anymore. It's got a new name. But he's fixing that all up. And the vintage taverns right there and Ravens down the street. And so we got a lot of cool stuff. And we want people to go eat there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trina. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening? Come to the podium, you give us your name and have 4 minutes. Seeing no one, I declare public comment closed. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Lewandowski. You take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. There's only 2 items on the consent agenda, confirming and approving single-lot special assessments for the cost of sidewalk snow removal in the right-of-way, and approving the scheduling of a public hearing on March 24th to hear comments on the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Lakeside Park renovations. Move on to resolution number 1.
Is authorizing 8 payments.
Do we have a motion?
So move.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Rep,
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
I guess just one question. I noticed, and I've noticed it before, but we have different contracts where we have payment 1 of 56 or 1 of 20. And I'm just kind of wondering if we cut these payments in half and we paid more, would that save us any money? Instead of 1 of 56, let's say that we put the contract up for 23 or 28. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Mayor Rep and council members, in many cases, our payments are either by unit price, by work performed, and it's a measurement of work, or it's by hours. So in either case, we're not paying any more if we pay more payments or any less. It's based on the actual work performed.
We're not carrying interest, so.
Right.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Number 2.
Approving the agreement with L'Oreal Ross Sterling and Entertainment Incorporated to provide event production services during the 2014 Port Huron Rockin' the Rivers music event.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Before I ask if there's any discussion, Nancy, did you want to tell us who's going to, or Tony? Whichever one.
I'm going to defer to Tony. She's the music lady.
Thank you, Mayor Rep and City Council members and Mr. Brown. We're very excited to have Rockin' the Rivers back again this year. Great support from yourselves and our community. This event would not take place without that kind of support from our community. We will have 4 Thursdays of fun, starting with a group called Street Corner out of the Detroit area. They do the Motown sound. The next week will be Air Margaritaville. They're back from a hiatus, so they'll be doing a Jimmy Buffett tribute. Next will be Your Generation, featuring 50 Amp Fuse, who's been here for several events, and they're just well worth the time to come back and repeat their performance. And then our last week will be Elton Rohn, who was recently, before they closed the Lexington Music Theater, he was up there. He does a tribute to Elton John with all the costuming and all the fun activities that go along with that. So that's our 4 weeks of entertainment.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions at all about this? Or?
Just a comment. I know, speaking with Nancy, she had some questions as well as I have today, and some social media comments about concerns that we're actually hiring this out and it's going to be totally different. So I just want the public to know that this is exactly the same as we've done every year, and it is still ran by our recreation department. And the only change will be it's bigger and better.
The contract is strictly stage, lighting, and sound, which we don't have available in our department, but everything else is hired by us and taken care of that way.
And it's all pretty much paid for by sponsorships?
Yes, we have sponsorships, hamburger concessions, T-shirt sales, beer sales, those kinds of things that cover the event. And community support, they buy banners, even a small banner purchase of $300 adds right to the great revenue that comes from that event.
It's a great event, it really
Thank you.
is. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, we can take the vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Move on to item 3.
Is approving the revised Lakeside Cemetery rules.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Second?
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there any discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Ordinance number 1.
Is being given its first reading and is an ordinance to amend Chapter 14 Cemeteries of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of updating the chapter.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Lewandowski, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Is there any discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. That concludes our agenda. I do have one announcement here. Presentation by the Environmental Protection Agency regarding the shoreline project proposed in Kiefer Park will take place at the next regular meeting, which is March 24th, and public hearing comments will be accepted following the presentation. Let's put that on the record. And is there anything from council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.